Okay, welcome to our Bucky Weekend Call. This is March 8th or 9th, depending on where you're calling from in the universe. And we're doing a fuller explanation. Amy Edmondson, we're on page 117. And it looks like we were approaching the end of a chapter, although the chapters are pretty good size. We're going to start with the section background Closepacking. Well, actually, we're at the beginning of chapter 8, Tales Told by the Spheres, Closest Packing. And that is actually our next topic. So let's see here. Welcome back, Joe. Are you good and ready to go? How are you feeling, and what do you expect to get out of tonight's call?
I'm feeling okay, just not feeling a little bit, not 100%. I have uh, something going on with like just my throat. I hope it's just a question of uh, you know, nothing serious. So just a question of fatigue. But I'm really looking to continue our conversation on on spheres, essentially. And I thought we had a really good conversation, just even talking about uh, how the spheres actually represent a harmonic life and how things relate to one another last week. So I was really pleased with that. So that's my expectation. I'm not going to go too long. My throat's on 100% here. So, Anne, how do you feel, and what would you like to take away from today?
Okay, today, thank you, Joe. I think I'm coming from the space of being very grateful. I think last week you all heard me talk about a case that was happening in the school. So I think it's resolving itself now, which I'm very happy, and I like the way it went. So grateful for that. This morning I just went to deal with the finishing of it for the parents, and all coming out the way we needed it to come out. Also very grateful for our meetings in the morning, because and I realize every Sunday morning we get the privilege of getting the information, the outcomes, from Richard when you go to your trim tab meetings. I realize very often you would be sharing with us what you've been getting, so thank you very much, Steve, for sharing the things that you are putting into your book. Okay, because you're taking it further than what maybe most people would. And Joe, just to check in with you on how your mom has been.
It's thank you, Anne. It's a uphill battle. She stood up. Just a question of, we did get a diagnosis that it would take 6 weeks, and that would be very difficult for her. So we're just hoping maybe get to a couple weeks and try and get her home. But
Okay.
So it's really it is a day by day thing. So, but I very much appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the update on that. Yeah, just let us know how we can support, if there's any way we can. Yeah.
Just
Um,
asking. Great. Thank you.
Richard, how do you feel, and what would you like to take away today?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good, and I guess in the spirit of doing it, commenting quickly, what I want to take away is to be taken away from all the other stuff that's swirling around us in the world for a couple of hours, but also just to comment on the sharing of information. And this morning I was on what the group called World Weavers, and it involves Stephen Bow and his Earth story. And he was talking about some of the interest that's coming from the schools, and I guess he's just recently got interest from the Green School in Bali. And I originally thought when he said Bali that he was talking about your new school, but anyway, that's pretty exciting. And and he's certainly excited with the curriculum and the way it's developing, and the enthusiasm of the teachers, and he's expecting the students will like it along that line as well. So that's pass along news. Steve, how are you feeling, and what's your expected takeaway today?
Well, I'm feeling good. For some reason, I hit another block on my book. I hit a block on my book a couple weeks ago, then just had an amazing time. I've got like my block on my book is caused because I have like 8 pages of what I think is going to be a pretty much a finalized chapter or back section, at least a corroborative section of the book. That's the foundation of like what is the universe. And then I did like over the last couple of weeks, I've done like I have like 26 pages of research and ideas that have come to me in the wee hours of the morning and night and during the day. And I got those 26 pages stacked up here with my back, with my 8 pages of rough edits over there. And I'm just getting it all and putting it all together. I'm just having to do in little bite-sized pieces. It's blowing my mind, and I feel kind of tired. But I'm really looking forward to tonight. And Joe, just like Ann said, and as Richard consented, we're just with you and your mom, and want to make sure that, and just like Ann said, we're supporting in any possible way we can, and life goes on. So appreciate you all. We're starting on page 117 with background : close packing. And I noticed that Amy took the word close packing and stuck it as one word, which is exciting. There have been a couple of insights from Amy here that have really been powerful for me, which is including the twisted cube octahedron. That blew my mind. I'm still coping with the twisted cube octahedron. I still think we should form a fund and create a Rubik's Cube that's a twisted cube octahedron, allow people to twist the crap out of their cube octahedron and just see what it does. I just think it's such a great idea. We did get a message from John. I thought he might be joining us, but he hasn't showed, and that's fine. But it's always exciting when other people join us. So we're going to start on page 117, and I just really think it's better if we rotate reading as much as possible.
Really quickly, Steve.
It's what?
If I really could just interject really quickly, is that
Please.
Are we gonna keep it still at 11 o'clock for the
Yes.
meeting? So okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're springing forward here. So
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. My goal is we usually end pretty much by then. So that's cool.
oh no, yeah. I'm at spring next week. Like
It's daylight saving time is not affecting this time because we're on GMT.
okay.
Okay, so in other words, starting next week, we don't start at 9 anymore. We start at 8 my time, 10 your time. Hope that's okay.
We would start at I mean we would technically
Yeah.
start at
Richard, defend me.
Yeah, I am.
Good.
yeah,
Thank you.
no, what time? 9 or 10 my time?
Yes, 10 your time
Okay,
next week.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So that's our daylight savings time announcement for next week, for those of us who have it.
Well, we're
Utah
springing forward.
almost voted us out of daylight savings time at this legislative session, almost, but they didn't cut it. So we'll see what happens. We're going to go ahead and have the heart attacks that we normally have. And even though it's healthier for everybody not to do daylight savings time, we're going to persist because that's what Americans do. They'll just keep doing the same old thing over and over again until recently. Okay, good. Who would like to be our first reader?
I can go ahead.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah. So.
Can you read that? Is that close enough?
Yeah, I can look at it. Packing spheres together with a minimum of terrestrial space is a problem that still presents a challenge to mathematicians. Actually, the problem has been solved, but it turns out that to be exactly difficult to prove that the solution is indeed maximally dense. For our goal of exploring fuller studies, we only deal with one of two types of closest packing described below. Once again, We start with the plane in order to establish a firm hold on the concept. Suppose we want to fit the largest possible 102, page 102 and 3, or that citation there, number of pennies on the surface of a small table. Another way of saying we want the pennies to lie as close to each other as possible. As we saw in the previous chapter, a square grid of tangent pennies wastes considerable more table space than a triangular array.
You're not reading from the shared screen, are you? You have
I
your own
wasn't,
copy.
no.
Yeah,
There,
because
no, I'll read from this shared screen now. Actually,
well, it doesn't matter.
That's even better. Observe in figure 8-2 that two tangent pennies create a valley that naturally embraces a third penny. All pennies are therefore allowed as close together as physically possible if every penny is situated in a valley created by two others. In the same way, there is only one closest packing arrangement of spheres in the plane. Each sphere must be in contact with 6 others. Figure 8.3. A second identical layer can be placed on top of the first, with its spheres all landing in nests created by 3 neighbors on the first layer. To achieve our goal of packing spheres as close together as possible, we have thus far had no choice as to the next step. A third layer, however, can be superimposed on the second in one of 2 different ways to maintain maximum density. The spheres of the third layer can either be placed directly above the spheres of the first layer or above the nests in the first layer. A schematic comparison of the 2 packings is shown in figure 8-4. The former is called hexagonal close packing, the latter cubic close packing. In both cases, every sphere touches exactly 12 others, as we might have anticipated from our vector equilibrium studies or VE studies. The difference between these two packings is explained in the following description. And
Too far. There we go.
Instead of trying to imagine indefinitely larger planar expanses, we focus on a small portion of the closed packing, the arrangement surrounding a single sphere. We start with one ball on a table, 6 others close pack around the first, and find themselves exactly tangent to each other. As with pennies, there is no choice as to the number of spheres in the cluster. The flat hexagon of spheres creates 6 separate nests of 3 spheres each, as seen in figure -8. But additional spheres of the same size sitting in any one of the 6 nests partially block their adjacent nests. As a result, there's only one room for a ball in every other nest, allowing a total of 3 nesting spheres on the hexagonal cluster. These 3 balls, by magic or...
Sorry. What just happened? Oh, I see. It went down too far. Hang on. 5, 8, 4.
By magic or... Oh, you're just
okay, number. Hang on. There we go.
By magic or else by inherent spatial properties, rest exactly a tangent to each other. A perfect equilateral triangle, figure -8-5, a top. The arrangement has neither leftover nor crowding. All 3 spheres on top are tightly shoved into nests, and because the planar, that's all right, the planar group 6 around 1 are clearly as close together as possible, all 10 spheres are convincingly close packed. Yeah, I think we should maybe go back and look at some of these diagram.
Yeah, and I think if I make it a little bit smaller, it makes it a little bit easier to see. So up at the top, it referred to figure 8-3, which was the spheres, the globes that were put together. And
I really actually liked reading off your screen much better than mine. Mine was
really,
quite small.
so here is 8-3. These are the spheres packed together. And then here are the pictures that we've been looking at with these two different layers of spheres stacked on spheres. And now we end up with this picture here, where we referred to 8-5A top. And so we're talking about the top of those three fit on those 7, and then 3 underneath it, I guess. It'd be cool if these were all animated 3D. One day it'll be that way, but right now it sure isn't. As long as we're stuck with paper. And look, there's that cube octahedron down there.
There are two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
is a twisted cube octahedron. Yeah, very cool.
And actually, this is actually an interesting way of actually demonstrating the vector equilibrium. How, essentially, well,
I have a question. When do we use this in big ways other than packing balls and, like when we play sports and things like this, right? But like because we spent a lot of time on these this close packing and the spheres, etc. But what is that the implication in a big way in our world?
What a bold question, Anne, because I always just assumed that there wasn't. The only time I'm concerned with packing spheres is when I'm trying to put oranges in a bag. That's when I am concerned about it. Occasionally I play racquetball and I have 2 or 3 racquetballs that go in a particular pouch. Richard, do you have any, or Joe, do you have any answer for Anne?
I mean, I feel like it's the connection between things, and then when you can then you can actually see the shapes and the spheres, actually how they relate, how these relationships actually work. In a way that it looks like and for me it looks like almost like a graph. So that's, I look at it almost like a graph theory in a way, but it's more than a theory.
Well, I have to go back to last week, and in the cookie sheet was very
Right.
helpful to me to be able to see that when you line them up, the cookie dough, if you want, on a sheet in a square arrangement, you can't put as many on the sheet as you can if you do it on a triangle, or sort of in that sense, kind of the beginnings of the closest packing. So I think the other thing is it's giving you the back to nature's efficiency, and you do things in the way that nature does it, and you end up using less area or less lines or less space. The one that really excited me in terms of practical application is when I don't know how many years ago it was now, but they were trying to land a moon sort of machine, and it needed to land in a way that it could open up and roll out and operate like a snowmobile, I guess, or a machine anyway. And when they did it, they put the machine in a tetrahedron bubble. And so when it hit the Earth or hit the moon surface, it was going to land upright no matter which way it sort of hit, because of the 3 triangle bases. So that's another kind of practical application that comes to my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maximum use of space is probably the best way. And I think the
Yeah.
cookie example is actually a very good example of that. And
Well,
when you're talking about margins, that actually means quite a, what, as Richard just illustrated a lot.
well, I think the most practical thing, here comes Manu. I think the most practical thing we've talked about is the cookies on a cookie sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
got that too.
that's every day. I also want to point out a couple things too. Maybe we should take just a moment and greet Manu and see how he's feeling or doing. Well, give him a minute to get his gear in shape. It takes a minute to do that. So we'll go ahead and continue, Manu, until you get here. I wanted to point out a couple things here. First of all, it says the planar group 6 around 1.
Right.
And so if I look, there are 6 spheres around that one right there.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 6 spheres around this one right here. Now, the part that was weird with me is that these notes on 8.5, it says hexagonal packing corresponds to the twist VE. So there's your twisted cuboctahedron. While cubic packing corresponds to VE, the cuboctahedron, the not twisted. So hexagonal packing corresponds to this guy, while cubic packing goes on with this guy. Now, and then it says compare with figure 7.6, which is, let me see how far back we have to go to get there. We have to go to the previous chapter. If you're interested, let's pull those pictures up. That's quite a ways back there. It's on page. Oh, all it's doing on all 7.6 does is it show the twisted cuboctahedron. So there's no reason to go back there because there's a really good picture of a twisted cuboctahedron. So, but a hexagonal packing corresponds to the twisted VE, to the twist VE, while cubic packing corresponds to the VE, the cuboctahedron. I don't get it. I don't get the significance of that. 1, 2, 3, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1 behind that. There must be 2 behind that. 1 in front, 1 behind. I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe it'll reveal itself as it goes. Manu, are you here yet? There you are, my man. How are you feeling? And what are you anticipating for today? And maybe you have something to say about packing on a twisted cuboctahedron. How
I
you
feel
feeling?
good. I
What?
feel good.
Good.
Thank you for allowing me to be late when
Sure.
you can. Yes,
Good.
I needed good sleep.
Good.
Anyway, I'm listening. It looks
Good.
fascinating. Yeah.
Good. So we'll go ahead and proceed then.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah. Any other comments or anybody have any idea what the difference is between hexagonal packing and cubic packing? Has she even mentioned that before?
Can you put the hexagonal packing and the cubic packing side by side?
Well, no, she says they're right here. Evidently, this one here, B, is the cubic packing because it's around the cuboctahedron.
Does say
And this one here is spherical because it's around the twisted cuboctahedron.
she does go over it before. I forget where, but and you can tell the difference at the bottom.
Well, let's just first try to understand the twisted. Twisted means it's gone around a little bit now.
That's right. It has 2 squares instead of a triangle and a
Twisted,
square.
twisted means, let's look at it practically. Where's my box again? Okay.
Okay, now do you guys all know how to pin him up so that you can see him? There are 3, if you mouse over his picture up in the right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, you'll see in that menu pin. And when you pin it, then he'll be big on the screen. And so if you've done it right, he will look like, whoops. Hang on, don't show anything yet, Manu. I'm going to share my screen and show everybody what it looks like to see you when you're pinned. If you have this view, then you're in good shape.
Got it.
Good. Everybody there? Wonderful. Okay, Manu.
I haven't pinned myself, so I can't see myself in big here anyway.
That's right.
Okay.
But we're going to look at you with some details. So, okay, now we're ready for you. You're focused on the screen. Go ahead.
Okay. Twisted. Twisted means a little bit this now.
Well, yeah, but that when they're talking about a twisted cube octahedron, it was something she talked about last chapter.
Yes.
I'll show you that, right? In other
Yeah.
words, this is the twisted cube octahedron. Whoops. Sorry. Here we go. Notice how right here, this is a cube octahedron, but notice how the two squares are matching and the two triangles are matching. This is called a twisted vector equilibrium. This is where there's always a triangle. Every square is surrounded by triangles. This is a regular
Yes.
cube octahedron. This is a twisted cube octahedron.
No, it's fine. I'm fine with that. We're
Good.
all talking about closely packed stuff, right?
Okay, right.
So at the plane somewhere, there will be a square.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that square twists. And when it's twisting, it's lifting. Twist like that and lift. Like that.
Okay.
I think because in this motion, imagine this motion.
Well, I
and
can't
going
see that.
up.
You need to hold it up higher.
Okay, this is horizontal,
All right. Yeah.
right?
Right.
The first motion that I put is this one.
Okay.
The second is doing this one while doing that.
Okay.
While going up.
Okay.
It's still closely packed, but the vision of a shape that you see is different. The first closely packed that we saw, where you have all triangle, is a static figure.
Right.
It is static. Do we agree to that?
Yeah.
Put up again your figures, Steve.
Okay. Where we go?
The two.
I thought I might just do a search here and search for cubic packing.
No. The first that you saw, the first you showed was this one, Steve. It's static. Okay, don't mind the star shape of stuff. Just look at the stuff, at the triangles.
Right.
This guy is compressible, it's static.
Well, that's all triangles. There are no squares in there.
They are squares. These are squares. Ash. Let me. Oh, yeah.
That's a double tetrahedron. There shouldn't be any squares in that. The only
They're
square
squares,
is in
Steve.
the only square is in the octahedron in the center of a double tetrahedron.
Oh, Steve, they're squares. I'll get it to you.
Well,
Go ahead.
here's mine, my man.
Yes.
So
What
like
is? Okay.
everything else is rhombus. It's rhomboid. It's not square. It's a diamond.
Steve. Look at this center. Let me just put
Yeah,
this.
the center has a octahedron in the center, and the very center is a square. That's the only square in a double tetrahedron is the octahedron in the center of it.
Steve.
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Let me first try to put my stuff together. You got me sleeping here. What happened to it?
You can
You know
see.
what? I think I actually found some glue and I glued this puppy so it wouldn't fall apart. What I
What
failed to
happened?
do,
Did something fall here? No.
I failed to get contrasting colors.
Okay, Steve, hold yours up.
I
Right?
did.
Hold yours up.
Okay. I'm gonna
Hold
unpin
it
you.
up. No, just to the sides.
What?
No, to the side like this. Hold like this. Hold like this.
Like that?
Okay. Yes. Does Steve, does everybody see where still fingers are? What I'm trying to say is that if you look through there, in the middle here is a square.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a
I
square.
My
thought-
red here is a square. My red is square. My
There's
red
a
color is
square.
square. My blue color is square. My yellow color, whatever. You have 3 planes that call these things that are square. Do you see that?
I only
Yeah.
see
Okay, let
one
me just-
square.
No, I'm saying, let me put mine up. Even, okay, let's just continue. Let me fix it first.
I see a square here, but they're not.
Yes, the
No.
planes that cut that thing like that. There are 4 planes. There are 3
Okay,
planes.
there are 4
The
planes.
first one and the third one is there.
Okay, so you're making a square out of this, even though there are no.
No,
radials.
in the middle of it, below the stars, at the core where all the things meet, there are 3 planes. Okay, let me just continue. I'm going to come to you.
Okay, good,
Before
because
taking this-
in the middle is a square in the middle of that cube octahedron. This is a square right
Right.
there.
Okay,
Hold it up this
okay,
way.
okay,
There it
okay.
is.
This is mine. Pin me.
Unfortunately, mine's only 2 colors instead of multiple colors. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Pin me. Do you see the blue, the green, and the red?
Yes. Okay, there
They're
are
all,
4
they're all
triangles there.
squares.
Okay,
There are
good.
4 squares.
Does
There are
everybody see the
three-
blue, green, and red?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good. Good.
yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are,
you can see-
they are squares.
Yes.
Mm.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
But
That's what I
these
get.
squares are internal here. These squares are, you reveal these squares only when you divide this guy. Because this is also the equivalent of a cube octahedron.
So what does that have to do with closest packing, Manu?
Okay, this Closepacking, what I'm trying to say is that this is static. This is one solid. It is stable. This is stable. Where the cubes, where the square are not overt, it is stable. Do you see that this guy is stable?
Mm.
This guy does not compress. It is stable. I can push there. It is like a tetrahedron. Less strong than a tetrahedron, but is a composition of many tetrahedra.
Yeah.
Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. The cube octahedron, the other cube octahedron, make uses of this. These squares here are overt.
Sure.
And these cubes are overt. They become windows of twist.
Sure.
It's the same closely packed, but it's twisting in a spiral.
Well, I don't get the closely packed, dude. I don't get how it's
All of
closely
this is
packed.
all of this is closely packed.
Yeah, but that doesn't relate to any of the pictures we're seeing in the book right here.
Why do you see that it doesn't relate?
Well, because
This one, show your figure. The one I'm holding relate to figure B. B. Yes.
B.
Yes.
Oh, because you're imagining the spheres at each of the nodes.
Of course. That's what it is.
Okay.
Right. That's interesting.
Because in reality, you don't see these yellow and greens.
Yeah,
You
but
only see squares.
tell me how B is cubic packing and A is hexagonal packing.
A is hexagonal packing because on A, the square that you have inside here comes outside. It
Okay, so
becomes
that
a
we don't
window.
have-
It
Yeah.
becomes a window
Wonderful.
because the sphere now are sliding on each other and twisting in a spiral.
That's
Let me
where
turn
I'm
on
going
my
to put
chair.
the $2 million is I'm going to build a cube octahedron with spheres on it so I can twist it.
Let me spin on my chair. Unfortunately, I don't have space here. It's doing
That's
this guy.
actually interesting.
Yes,
What?
it is doing what I'm doing here. Look at my head. When I was static, you look at my face.
Yeah, but you were spinning around your chair.
Yes, but imagine that I was spinning and going up. So everything will be twisting like this. Remember the relative. Remember, you're always talking about the torus, Steve.
Yeah.
When I spin and I move, what perspective do you see? Because all of this is the sight.
Right.
All of this is the perception of the things.
That's right.
What is doing this? Look at my hands are like first like this. When it twists like that, it become there.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if these graphics in this book were animated 3D graphics, it would actually be kick butt, and Manu would not have to spin around in his chair.
But you see the main thing here is that we know that the square windows are through which the motion appear, like the flow, the twisting. Because that's what obstructs. That's what goes like this. The square windows are what goes like this, close. You see that? Yes, close.
Sure.
It's still that window that we have. And then open there to the maximum of a window, and then closes again in cycles.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, that's the jitterbug.
So in the other one is opening, closing, but twisting like that. And that's what gives that impression.
Well, good.
But all of this is still closely packed.
Wonderful. I got it.
Okay.
I see more than I saw before, but I still don't get the difference between, pardon me for being so pedantic, between the difference between cubic packing and hexagonal packing. So, we'll see. Maybe it'll unfold as we go.
But Steve, look on the A. On the A.
I'm looking on the A.
Yeah, where are the squares? And how are they linked? Do they appear exactly as they are on B?
Well, that's my problem is I'm not visualizing the relationship between B and A.
Does anybody see that the squares on A and B are not the same? The squares in A are intersecting like this.
Well,
in B are intersecting like that at 90 degrees.
Right.
The square in A are at the surface.
Well,
yeah, that's exactly right.
It is very, very different. It looks similar, but it is very, very different.
Well,
look at the A. Look at the A. You have a square that shares a bond with another square. Do you see that?
Right.
I'm gonna go back to the original.
No. Wait. Before you go, on A, I'm trying to show the differences. Steve is already gone.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna get to page 104.
No, I wanted that figure again because it shows another thing important.
Okay. Well, okay. So let me think here. W readers finish searching. Close this down. Go to page
That was a good explanation.
118. Go to the next page 119. Next page 118. Oh my gosh.
The thing is, Steve is too fast.
Hang on, we're
I'll
getting
tell
there.
you what.
Go ahead.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just going back to 7 and 6, and I may be wrong, but what I see is in the cube octahedron, where you have triangle over square, and in order to get square over square and triangle over triangle, you twist either the top or the bottom, I guess, but you twist
Hold Steve. Hold there, please.
Hang on a second. I'm going to where I think it'll be very helpful. And when you invite me not to go there, then I stop and it gets all screwed up. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, you're just about there.
We're just about there.
There, no.
Well, I think there it is.
There. Yeah.
This is the difference between a twisted cube octahedron right here.
Right. That was the one I was referring to.
And this is your regular cube octahedron.
Okay, can I bring the explanation there straight?
Can you do what?
Can I bring the explanation?
Well, let me just say.
No,
what
no,
I-
Richard, please. You know, it's being caught here. And
What?
okay, just give me 1 minute. It's actually not more than 1 minute. To the right, when you take the squares link, they share a bond, square to square. You see that?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're
Okay.
we're
the
trying
left.
to see how you get from A over to B.
Yes. To the left, there is no square that is linked square to square on the bond
Right,
that have an edge. It is square to triangle.
right.
Yeah,
That's the whole difference. That's the whole difference.
right.
That's another way of putting it.
Well,
I understand.
Let
I
me tell you.
understand.
Let me tell you how I make the change and see if it makes sense. So if you start on the left with the triangle over the square, or the square over the triangle, and then you twist the top one turn if you want, so that the square turns over and now is over the square, and the triangle is over a triangle. And that's what number B is.
Right.
And so all I did was I twisted the top or the bottom, I guess. And so it's like twisting the hexagon.
At the equator.
Yeah. That's now
Me
in
too.
my head how I changed from one to the other.
Me too. And there's an equator here because this is at the bottom, but this is also an equator. I can twist it there.
Right.
And this is also an equator. I can twist it there. This was the $1 million I was going to invest to
Steve,
bet this game.
Steve, you cannot twist triangles.
Dude, you can twist along this axis.
No,
you
we didn't.
cannot.
I'm not twisting
yes.
the triangle.
We're
Manu, I'm not
twisting.
twisting the
We're not
triangle.
twisting them. We're turning them.
We're turning them on their axis.
I think that you guys are way complicating this stuff. Simple.
No.
No, I think you're
we-
complicating it, Manu.
No,
This
I'm
is very
not.
simple.
Okay.
Hey,
go
Manu,
on.
do you
This
see
is
do you see
no,
this
I
as an
don't see it like
equator?
that. This is it again.
Do
This
you
guy
see it
here.
as an equator, my friend? Do you see
It
this as
doesn't
an
matter.
equator?
All the planes, all the three planes were equators.
Hey,
The three
my
planes
friend, it
that
does
cut
matter.
are
It does
equators.
matter because that's the way I see it. This is an equator, so it does matter. Okay, now what is your
Steve,
point?
that is an equator. This one also is an equator. The third one is an equator.
What?
There
There are three
The first one
equators.
that you saw, the first one that you saw here is an
Yeah.
equator.
Yeah.
The
So is
second
this.
one in the middle. Yeah, hold on. That one in the middle. No, wait. The one in the middle, like this, is an equator.
It is.
The-
There are three
yes.
equators.
Yes. There are three great circles. And then what does it teach us? In
And you
regard
can
to what we
twist
are
them
looking.
at their great circles. Exactly
No,
right.
you not twist anything. You only twist. You cannot twist the right. You can only twist to the left. You can't twist. You only twist. You can't. The only way you twist is this guy. Is this guy here? That
Well,
has.
why is it I'm only twisting to the right, Manu, and not twisting to the left?
Okay.
Why
Let me
is that?
explain again. You only twist to the left, not to the right.
That depends on which hemisphere you're in. Because if I'm in the northern hemisphere and I twist to the left, the bottom is twisting to the right. If I go to the southern hemisphere and I twist it to the left, the top is twisting to the right. So that's all relative to the observer. It's a local experience. See, that's actually what we're going to do, Manus. We're going to pool our money together, get $1 million. We're going to create a cube octahedron that works like a Rubik's cube, so we can bend it around, so we can twist it at the great circles.
No, I mean, okay, right. Let me shut up because I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm trying to say to you guys, in that, in one case, you have this configuration that is a square with a square that does this, that twists all over. In the other case, you only have square and triangles. You have this.
We totally get that.
That is the whole difference.
We get that.
Yes. In one case, you can twist this triangle here. is going to lock the other one in such a way that you cannot twist it. It's going to lock it this way. Look at this. You see this case? This is what is going to happen. Look at the blue is on my palm here. This guy here is going to come here, and another guy is going to come here. This is locked.
Right.
This form a pyramid. You cannot move a pyramid.
But that's not the point of question. The point of question, Manu, is why is a hexagonal packing corresponding to a twisted vector equilibrium or twisted cubic equilibrium, and why is cubic packing relating to the cube octahedron that's not twisted? That was the question.
Because of a cube that is not locked
Right.
in the hexagonal.
One's dynamic.
Because of a square that is not locked by triangle. This guy here is locked by triangle. I don't know why you don't see it.
Maybe if you yell a little louder, I'll get it.
No, I'm not yelling. I'm just telling you. You see, this is the first one. It's still twisting like that. It's still doing that, but it's going to do this very quickly and lock here.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you cannot move. That's it. You can't move this. You form an octahedron very, very quickly.
But
the other one cannot form an.
What does it have to do with closest packing, Manu?
But
all of this is Closepacking, Steve. All is Closepacking. This does not exist.
Okay.
Manu, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about how you change from a cuboctahedron over to the other one. Has nothing to do with what
you don't change. You don't change from a cuboctahedron to the other one.
Yes, you do.
You don't. No.
Well,
you
then
don't.
look at the picture and see.
Okay, look at the picture. You don't change.
It.
One is one, the other one is one.
Right.
But
you don't change.
Well, see, in this book, Manu, we read that.
Then go back to 7.6, and it says you do change.
Yeah, it does. It does say you do change. Back on 7.6.
Tell me where it say you change.
If we,
tell me how
you have to read. You have to read in the chapters here, but that's what she talks about. She in the chapters talks about the fact if the cube octahedron.
Tell me how you change that one.
Here we go. If the cube octahedron is sliced in half and one hemisphere is rotated 60 degrees with respect to the other.
If it is sliced in half, in reality, is this sliced in half? She's talking to explain to you the difference.
That's
it's not sliced.
That's it.
That's why I say we're talking across.
Listen, if it is sliced.
Listen.
It's okay. It's
and
okay,
get back
Richard.
to this page, because this is what we're trying to do. Is to capture this idea of being able to, at the hemisphere, to rotate in order to shift from one to the other.
But Richard, I've listened to you. You don't want to focus on the keyword. If
you focus on what's on the page and help us understand.
I'm focusing on it. I am.
Right.
I'm reading.
Okay, I'll help us.
Okay, listen to me at least. The problem is that you have your point and you don't want to move to listen to the other person. Let me say it forcefully again. If you read what Steve has highlighted, at the beginning of it, he says, if the cube octahedron is sliced in half. Now, in reality, does the cube octahedron slice in half?
Well, it doesn't say that here.
This is a lab experiment to show you something in. I cannot take a person, I'm a surgeon, I cut the person to show you where the heart is, where the tummy is, and I say a person is naturally like that.
So all you're doing then is you're saying that what she has done here is wrong. You can't.
No, I haven't said so. I haven't said so. I have not said so. Joe, are you listening to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
I've said that, please put those things up against it.
They're right there.
I don't want to waste your time.
They're right there.
Okay. Okay, no, the one that you showed, that's very clear.
Well, it's the same drawing with spheres packing.
Okay.
And we're talking about spheres packing.
Okay, I'm giving up. I think that you don't want to cooperate. That's fine.
Okay.
The slice in half is the difference.
It's okay. You continue.
Cool. I like the idea of continuing. No, obviously, Manu, you see something that is not in the book that we've been reading.
But Steve, Joe is seeing it Joe is seeing
Yeah.
it. You are not seeing.
Okay, well,
Okay,
Joe, help
Joe,
us.
am I
Can I
right?
try this?
So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can I try this? Basically, if you want to build a twisted cuboctahedron, and if you want to build that the cuboctahedron, then you have to do it separately, correct? Because you're placing the balls. So is Amy trying to help us understand the difference, which is where the triangles, to help us see that it's, because when I first looked at it, when I flipped back, because I missed the 2 weeks, I think, when you all went through the last pages of the vector equilibrium, right? So so when I looked at the pictures, I didn't even see the difference. So is it her explanation about if we cut it in half is to help us see the difference between the shapes, the shapes connecting that makes it twisted cuboctahedron, or it's just cuboctahedron. Okay, so it's to help us see the differences, right? But at the end of the day, we have to build it, and it's not about twisting the thing to get it into that shape. Is that where I'm going? Am I right in understanding that?
You understand that very clear, Anne. Very clear.
Right.
Let me
Oh,
put again to you here. See figure A, see figure B. In figure A, you have squares bonding to squares in an edge
Right.
on
That's
figure A.
yeah.
You don't have that on figure B.
That's right.
And that is the key.
Yeah, but Don,
No, Richard,
just
hold
listen
on.
for a minute. Yeah, that's
No,
not the
I've listened
point.
to you. No, that's
We
fine.
all- we all-
I'm trying. No, I'm not addressing you, Richard. I'm addressing the others to listen to what I'm saying. You will have the time to say what you have to say. All right?
No,
So in
ahead.
reality, the only motion that you have in universe is the twisting of squares. That's the only way motion happen. When you have triangle, it doesn't twist. Triangle fix something rigid. That's why the figure to the B is stable.
Right.
And the figure to the A is an equilibrium, but it is unstable. I'm through. Okay? That's
Well,
what I wanted to say.
we understood that point, and you've made the point very clearly that in nature, a cuboctahedron does not twist into a twisted cuboctahedron. But squares collapse in and out of triangles. Triangles, if we miss that radial, that what Bucky calls a something diamond. He calls it when the square starts to collapse, there should be a diagonal line between these things, and they're not there. What does he call that? He calls it some kind of a something diamond. Anyway, so we're getting that you're saying that that the cuboctahedron doesn't twist at a great circle. That's what you're saying.
No.
That's what you're saying.
I say the hexagonal cube octahedron is an outcome. The regular cube octahedron is another outcome. That's all I say.
They're different outcomes. So that avoids the question. The question is, how does hexagonal packing relate to a cuboctahedron, and how does cubic packing correspond to it's hexagonal goes to a twisted cuboctahedron, and cubic packing goes to an octahedron. That's what the original question was, Manu. It was about packing.
First thing, in terms from the point of energy, the two have the same content, the same volume. We're talking about energy.
We're not talking
it's
about that.
Yes, it's a form of the same energy.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Okay.
What's the difference between hexagonal packing and
hexagonal packing?
Let me try again.
Okay.
So, because now I'm picking up on what Manu was saying about it's the square that's twistable. And if that's correct in my mind, then on A, the square, we've got square to square. And the only thing that can twist is the square. And so if you twist the upper square, you will end up getting B. You can't twist, as he says, you can't twist the triangle, but if you twist the square, then you can change from the hexagonal over to the cubo.
Right. But you can't go in reverse.
Yeah.
And so one is stable, and that's what he was saying the whole time.
Yeah, but now when you get to a vector equilibrium, the vector equilibrium has all kinds of motion in it.
That's correct.
And you can press down, you can torque it. You pass it from, if you want, the icosahedron down to the octahedron, down to the tetrahedron, and twist it all the way down to the triangle, and then back up again.
Note that the cube octahedron is not the vector equilibrium. It's an approximation. It is an approximation.
I know that.
Yeah.
We know that.
But the the vector equilibrium can do what I just said it can do. Because
you say yes, the vector equilibrium can do it. It can go to the cube octahedron, or it can go to the hexagonal. It can do it.
Yeah.
But one, not from one, is like you say, you're getting from the octahedron to the tetrahedron. You need to cut.
No, you don't.
You need to cut from the octahedron to the because before you get it.
No, you don't.
It
Tell me
the
how you get
squares
it.
collapse. The squares collapse without being cut.
In the octahedron, let's build it. We're not talking build it. Let's build and see how it does.
Well, this is the drawing that Buckminster Fuller
That is
puts
the
out.
vector equilibrium transforming into stable. It keeps
Exactly
on
right.
moving and then get into some stable stuff.
This is where the squares start to collapse, which is what you're talking about, Manu. The squares collapse, and that's what creates the
if you take the vector equilibrium and you go from triangle down to the triangle, the top to the bottom, and you press down, and then you twist, and then it folds down into an octahedron. Then you can lift that up and torque it down to a tetrahedron, and then you can turn it down to an actual triangle.
So this is what you were trying to explain, Manu.
I'm saying you go from the vector equilibrium to the isocosahedron,
right,
to the octahedron,
right,
and to the tetrahedron.
right.
Those are stable states.
Okay, but
we're talking about the twisted hexagonal, the hexagonal cubic octahedron. It is not stable.
Okay, I've never asked that question. My question, Manu, was what is hexagonal packing and what is cubic packing? That's my questions.
But I just show you what it is.
Okay, well, I'm looking at these spheres over here.
On the hexagonal packing, I first say, trying to say that you understand. I first say that the squares on it are overt, meaning they're outside, they're windows to allow the twist.
Yeah, but how does that have to do with packing?
Hold on. Yeah,
see these spheres around here, these little circles, these imaginary circles? She's talking about how they pack.
Steve, there's one, I realize that there's one point that you haven't got since, and we'll be pounding on this. All of this that we're talking about are closely packed. If they are not closely packed, you can't talk about anything.
I'm not talking about closely packed. I'm talking about the difference between hexagonal packing
But
and cubic
I've
packing.
repeated it 100,000 times. Let me repeat it again. On the figure A, you have the occurrence of square sharing a boundary with square
Right.
on a line. That is figure A.
I know, but my question is about the
No.
spheres.
Listen, you know. Okay, because I have to be irreverent, yes, Steve. So that is the difference with B, where in B you don't have a case. Every square share the boundary with a triangle. It shares with a triangle, and the triangle will correspond to another triangle in a point that
Yeah,
has, yes?
I'm thinking of these spheres.
But they're all sphere. Every vertex is a sphere.
Yeah, but
Every vertex is a sphere.
I'm thinking about oranges in a shopping bag. I'm thinking about cookies on a cooking sheet. I'm looking at spheres of energy around nodes. And all I want to know is what the difference is between hexagonal packing and cubic packing is. That's all I want to know.
Okay.
And I think
Somebody else explain. I cannot explain that.
I see four circles in A, and I see 3 circles on top of the. Okay, this one. Oh, okay. Below, it looks like there are 5. Oh, okay. That means for hexagonal packing, you have 1 ball in the middle and it's surrounded by 5. And then and the second layer has got 4. Whereas the other one has got 1 in the middle and 6 around it, and then you can put 3 on the second layer.
Well, one thing that you've told me, Anne, is that as I look closely, this has a sphere in the center of it, and this one does not have a sphere in the center of it.
Okay, I think it's more, but I think the point is that both ways is close packing. The closest packing you can get.
They are both
Yeah.
close packing, no
Just
question
how?
about it.
Because I was counting circles too, you know.
Go.
How in the world did you get the hexagonal?
Here.
And then I realized A has got 5 around 1.
Yeah. Try this one. For me, I'm just seeing it now. On A, go to the top, and you see the way it's triangulated there.
Yeah,
And then slide over to B at the top.
it's not
And you-
triangulated.
No, at the very top, those 3 balls they've just changed so that the one behind the 2 is now in front of the 2.
Right.
And that's what gives you the triangle then that's kind of facing you instead of going away from you.
Right.
And what seems to have also happened, and this is what I guess Manu is trying to explain to us, and I'm trying to sort of see how you change. Right now in my mind now is that if I look at A and I see the triangle facing away, then what's going to be in front of me, and I think maybe that's what he was saying, is the square windows now come to the front, the foreground, and you see them hinged together. But then when you take those balls and change them so that the top triangle there faces towards you, you see the triangle, and then the triangle is hinged to a square. And so for me, I was trying to twist to get from A to B. Now what I'm doing is I take those spheres and I take the top 3 and I take the back one and I bring it into the front, and so I change from A to B.
right. So A changes to B. We've kind of established that. B is a solid structure. What is the relevance? Let me ask you that.
Well, now we're back to Anne's question. Yeah.
Well,
an
I
hour
mean,
ago.
so I think
Yeah,
Okay,
this
okay,
is
guys.
Hang on,
this is
just
important.
hang on. Just
Can I
hang
share
on.
again?
No, just
Can I
hang
share again
on.
an experiment here?
Just
Can
hang
I share
on.
an
a
experiment?
second.
Hold on, Manu. Let Richard finish his
I'm
talking.
just trying to say that the question that started all this from Anne was, what's the practical sort of application of some of this stuff? And we used the examples of the cookie sheet and a couple of other things. And then we got into a little bit of trying to understand how you get from A to B. Manu's trying to help us understand something about that. I've just now seen how I'm going to get from A to B by changing one of the triangle balls, the back one, on A, and bring it forward, so it's in the foreground instead of the background, and the hexagonal changes to a cubic.
So what is the advantage of one over the other? Let me
Yeah,
answer that.
now we're
In
back
a
to that
practical
question.
sense. Well, and I think that there is a very,
yeah.
very practical application, but
Okay.
Okay, good. What is it?
one,
Can I have 1 minute?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So you see, this is the first case of a rectangle, right? Let me put it the same color here so that it will be different. Let me choose an arbitrary red. Square over square, huh?
Right,
Square over rectangle, huh?
right.
Okay, look at the outcomes. I'm using 2 bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm going to use 2 red bonds on this one. When you take this in nature, the first thing that this does, this is the natural motion of it, huh? This is going to do this. They are going to do this, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that they do, this guy, when he does, he comes and does this. You see that? Right? When he does that, this one starts doing this. And the second thing that he does this. It forms a pyramid, naturally. That's the first outcome. Do we see that? Using 2 bonds. Second one, I'm going to use these yellow ones. They do the same, right? The first thing that does is this guy, this yellow come here. The closest that it does, this yellow comes here. What does it form? What is the outcome? It's a twist. Do you see that? It forms an helix.
No.
You do see a difference?
Complete
This is an helix. I just use the 2 bonds, the 2 yellow, on the closest of things, because the natural energy flows, always flows, energy flows to the point of least resistance, to the line of least resistance. The line of least resistance between these 3 is this one. Between those 3 is this one. And this now a plane that can be twisted to form an helix. Yeah.
Right.
Complete
That
the
is the
formation.
difference.
Complete the formation.
Yeah, you can do whatever. It can go in a way. You see block here, it's blocked. You need to break it because the 2 are not going to be exactly there. But in nature, what? You're not going to have 100. They are never, they are rarely overlapping in 180 degrees.
Right.
Everything is always less than 180 degrees. So it fold this way. And anyway, life is folding, isn't it?
Right.
If it goes like this, we are dead.
That's
If
correct.
our DNA were like this, we would be dead a long time.
Mm.
It is because it does this, and the other one came and wrapped that one, that the two can link via the RNA. It's because we have a double helix. We have one here and the negative one there, and then you can have now, because one of these will come in relationship with the other, then you can have the RNA between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
So the DNA, double this, and RNA.
Well,
Huh.
you're going way beyond what we were talking about, and
But it's the
there's
meaning behind it.
there's nothing wrong with what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but it's just that we're trying to see how A goes to B.
Right.
And
Richard, what I've
we're
done,
talking about the
what I've
significance
done,
of it
Richard,
now.
Richard, let me explain to Richard what I
big
did. I took the big differences that I saw between A and B, and I went through the natural process of bonding, because that is a natural thing.
Correct.
And I came to outcomes that are vastly different. One outcome is a stable of this, because it's going to form a pyramid, and this pyramid is going to link the natural way to another pyramid to form an octahedron stability, right? Because this pyramid now is going to go, if I had more, then let me use the blue now. It's going to use 4 bonding here. 1, 2, 3. The most natural thing that it would do, it would this. 4, and then bond.
That's right.
2. To form an octahedron. This guy now doesn't change.
That's right.
It's up till you apply some energy, some strong energy onto it. You impact it.
We understand that. And we're talking about 2 different kinds of structures. Now, what you just happened to explain to me, I think I was now understanding with when I use the spheres and I change a triangular sphere so it's either pointing out or it's pointing in, and that changes from hexagonal to cubic.
No, what I'll explain is that the key difference in the outcome here is what the square was in relationship to.
Yeah.
On one case,
no,
you don't understand. You don't understand that. You don't understand that in the whole scheme.
But
don't.
Manu, that wasn't our quest at the beginning.
Well,
Our quest at the beginning was not to understand the whole scheme. The quest at the beginning was to understand the concept between hexagonal packing and cubic packing. And I think while in this last part of the discussion, I've discovered the difference. So I would like
That's
to
the difference.
demonstrate.
That's the difference.
but
That's
to be
one.
fair-
That is one. That is one. This hexagonal packing. Yeah.
Okay, but
that's
good.
it.
But let me show you
And
what I
that is-
discovered.
But to be
And that is
fair,
the other packing.
This is hexagonal packing. Refers to a method of arranging identical circular objects in 2-dimensional plane where each object is surrounded by 6 nearest neighbors. Blammo. That's hexagonal packing. And then I asked for cubic packing, and voila, this is cubic packing.
I'm sorry, Steve. Look at this. Look at this. When I take this guy here, it's surrounded by how many? This is surrounded by how many? Count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
yeah, 6.
Okay. I rest my case.
Oh, good. Good, because I think I found the good answers on my pages that I showed there. So let's go back to our reading and continue. And hopefully, did we finish the bottom of this page? Did you, I think we need to read from here, right? I'm going to start reading from there. We can then flip the whole package over and repeat the procedure on the other side. We can again have 2 choices. The second 3-ball addition can be placed either directly above the 3 on the bottom, meaning both the top and the bottom triangles are pointing the same way, or we can be oriented the position of figure 8-5. Let me see about this page up. A5A, comma, and A5B. The former choice hexagonal outlines the vertices of the polyhedron in which the squares are adjacent to other squares in the three pairs meeting at the equator, as are the 6 of the 8 triangles in figure 8-5b. The latter choice, cubic, consistently alternates triangles and squares so that the squares are entirely framed by neighboring triangles and the triangles by squares.
Yeah, and
that's
that's
really-
an important point right
Yeah.
there. The word consistently.
Yeah,
That's the whole point right there.
yeah,
There's
No,
there's a predictability with that. And
Yeah.
that's where I was kind of saying, okay, now apply it. And what Manu showed with the DNA actually applied it. He demonstrated the difference between showing A versus B.
right on.
That's just one example. I mean, but there's a lot of different examples that this applies to. It applies to the connections between the things themselves and the stability of and then, but also it could be looked at as the efficient use of energy as well. And this actually relates directly. I was just thinking about it in terms of databases as well. One is like, schema on read, the other one's schema on write.
Exactly, Joe. Efficient use of energy. Energy
Right.
flows to the line of least resistance. That's what it
Right.
means.
And but one is very rigid and predictable, and the other one is not. And that's where the
Yes.
schema on write is like almost the very rigid form
Yes.
you would
What
have.
does it mean to be predictable in common language?
now
There's
you can go
stability.
back
There's
and
stability. There's stability.
Yes, it means to be stable. That's
And
in
so-
common language. That's what it means.
And that's exactly right. And then there's certain
Yes.
cases that you would want one versus the other, but the one exists in nature. A versus it exists in nature. So, coming back to Ann's question, I mean, this is a really important point. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going from, a stable structure to one that isn't stable. What are the advantages and disadvantages of both of them? And they obviously, A is within nature.
We talk about tetrahedra, octahedra. Do you know how many polyhedra exist? It's infinite. We talk about those
Right.
that are stables or that we can recognize. What Steve would call fractals.
Right. Right.
it's the thing
Exactly.
again, we go back to Anne's question. We're all trying to find a practical application.
No, but I think Manu we've been talking about that the whole time. That's what Manu's been.
That's where I'm very surprised of Richard
No,
today. To be truthful, I'm
I
very
mean,
surprised.
he is.
I mean, I think he's demonstrated that very clearly. And I mean, and
What is the practical application then?
DNA.
The practical
I just told
application
you,
is
actually.
that in figure A is the one that's linked to the motions.
Right.
B is a stable state, where a form, where we live.
Exactly.
Yes, I know that. But give me a practical
I
application.
just gave you one, actually, Richard. I mean,
What?
where you have something
No,
that's
B is
fixed.
my house, A is my vehicle.
Yeah,
A
okay.
is my vehicle, my car. Every day I take it to go places.
Good,
B is my
thank
house
you.
where I sleep.
Thank you. That's what we were looking at.
Yeah.
We get a practical example.
There's multiple. I mean, there's a lot of examples. Just
Yeah,
think
I
of
know.
examples.
But, and you gave us one. You
Yeah.
gave us one.
And
We started out by talking about on the two-dimensional plane, the idea of being able to see the practical advantage between the square arrangement of cookie dough versus the triangle arrangement. And now we're getting to other applications.
Well, and it's
And
also
that's what Anne was asking.
But and the important part is, okay, so now we understand how one gets to the other, and we also understand the interrelationships. But then you understand, more importantly, when to apply one and when not to. And that's really kind of the key here, is that in certain cases that you would apply B, that may be more efficient if it's stable and predictable. versus an A where you actually want something that is actually more flexible and actually can, and that was my point with the idea on read on versus write. One is flexible and is actually can take information as there's a dynamic relationship that you
So
can be.
then you were going, so give me an example of each one.
I just gave you one.
Yeah, reading and writing data in a
Yeah,
computer.
schema on read versus schema on write. One is actually very fixed, where you take the data in and it's very predictable, and sometimes you want that in your database. One is actually much more flexible, and it's taking information, and it can have a dynamic relationship versus A versus B. And there are cases where you'd want B, believe it or not. So
Yeah, no, I understand. But so you're giving a data system, and we had an example of a car, and where you want it more flexible and where you don't. Yeah, so that's. I mean, just like in a car too, you want a stable chassis, but you want mobile wheels. You want adjustable wheels. You want turnable wheels.
but those are just parts.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about the whole here.
Yeah,
So
okay.
when I'm talking about the difference when I write and read, you're talking about the actual distinct differences between the two objects. So you can't just talk about a node and say, well, this node's, you know.
Well, again, you're telling me I can't talk about a hybrid then. Okay, well, that's.
Yeah, no, you can talk about hybrid, but they're
You know,
not going to be stable. They're not going to be. It's like my caravan. My caravan on the road, or the ROVs that you call it in America, is transitory. It's home, but transitory.
It's what?
It's not home. My caravan, my remote, my how do you call it? You know, when I have my car and then I have a rig on that I pull, how do you call it?
A trailer.
My trailer is my home, but it is transitory. And everybody understand that. It is a home.
Okay.
But look at what I want to share this that I've seen here. That is again interesting. Taking the overt, the star stuff, the start VE. I've changed one of the outer windows into a square, and it's still rigid. It doesn't go. So this is the case of a B there. You have a window, but that window tends to be internal, because this will link internally. It's never going to be outwardly. So the outward, the shell of a thing, is always being built by tetrahedra, by strength. Whereas on the other one, you just get into a plane, and it is taking you somewhere. It is like Steve called the wave, the current.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the discussion. But it's always concern. Remember, it's always collision that teaches. If everything is soft, you don't learn. Sorry, Richard. Sorry to be rough, but I've learned a lot of things here now.
Well, let me just say,
and I'm not going there.
Let me just say this. This to me is a really interesting discussion, and discussions often will turn into pressing our point to the other person.
Yes.
But if we're in a dialogue, as soon as we start seeing that happen, we have to shift back into what a dialogue is all about.
And that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I thought so.
No,
That's what you try to do. You try to drive
Well,
the conversation. That
we understand each other's perspectives, what we were looking at, and how it differed, and then we also came up with some practical examples as well.
I was, for me, the dynamic of the dialogue was becoming lost, and I was losing it as well.
But you came.
So it's to me that's the kind of a lesson experience out of this, is that how easy it is to, when we have a really strong sort of idea, how easy it is to get out of a dialogue and into I've got to make sure that you understand it.
Well, I mean,
So that's all I'm saying.
I think everybody understood each other at the end.
Yeah, we may have understood it, but we lost the dialogue part for a while. We got into discussion, or we got into kind of almost like an arguable debate of,
Right. The way I
making,
like to explain it is we shifted from my point of view to I'm right.
yeah,
And when I switch from my point of view, your point of view, I'm right. The only alternative is you're wrong. See, my point of view, your point of view, I'm right, you're wrong. So we need to stay in the my point of view part of the conversation.
Fair enough. Yeah,
That's
and-
also reducing, Steve. My
Right.
point of view is right doesn't mean that you're wrong.
right.
Yeah.
Because there can be many
That's
rights.
absolutely right.
I
Yeah.
can even
Many,
be
many
right
wrongs.
about having a point of view. This is what I just discovered.
So how does that relate to actually A and B?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I
now,
came up with while you were sleeping or while you
Yeah.
were arguing. I kind of, while you guys were shifting out of point of view into something fixed, what I came up with me is one of my confusions in this conversation, because my question continually here has been, okay, great, but explain to me the difference between hexagonal packing and cubic packing, and I finally got it.
And one of I just the whole point of these things is that actually, you know, and for me, and the benefit of actually being in around this group is that you do have a deep knowledge of how one transitions to the other, right? And then once you have that, you really understand the inner workings. And once you understand the inner workings, you really understand the application.
As long as I'm willing to let all my emotions vent, I'm
Correct.
happy.
But
Okay,
yeah,
so
get to that.
let me tell you what I came up with here. Hexagonal packing is three-dimensional. Cubic packing is three-dimensional. When we first started here, we started talking about square packing, putting cookies on a cookie sheet into square format, and putting cookies on a cookie sheet in a triangular format. So if I go from 3D down to 2D, I go from triangular packing or stacking of cookies to cubic or to square stacking of cookies. Then when I go to 3D, it's hexagonal and it's cubic rather than triangular and square. Now that was a big thing for me. Did you all get that?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm transitioning from the cookie sheet, which is triangular and square packing, to three-dimensional objects. That was big time for me when I discovered I was doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I would like to just finish this paragraph here. The former choice, we already read through here. We read the top paragraph. The latter arrangement, our friend the vector equilibrium, which almost was not our friend tonight, as Bucky says, is the most symmetrical of the two choices and therefore used as the basis of Fuller's subsequent sphere packing studies. So this whole section has been to explain why we're doing we do the kind of packing that that Bucky referred to. He didn't talk about the one. He didn't talk about the twisted cuboctahedron. He talked about the vector equilibrium, which is the cubic packing. That's what we're going to be talking about here. So that was what the whole lesson seemed to be about for tonight. Whew. Now,
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I
Please.
appreciate what you say, Steve. You know, life, the choices, you know, in this study that we've seen here, know that we make an abstraction of time, that we agree that time is just a frequency. We're abstracting it. So the long term, that is, the long term is symmetrical, isn't it? Because the long term, whatever the case, has to obey the principle of duality. That calls for some symmetry in the relationship. That's the why the one to the right is our friend. Okay, this was just a funny thing to say, to concur with you. That's it. Otherwise, I can give my take.
Okay, well, I think we're ready for takeaways, even though, because the next, if we started, we've actually read quite a few pages in spite of myself. We started on 117, we've ended on 121, so we've actually read a couple of pages. And I did pull my head out of a 2D application into a 3D application, back to a 2D application, and I've gotten some out of it. So, Manu, thank you for joining us. How are you feeling, and what's your takeaway?
I'm feeling very good. And my take is that I like this group. I love this group. And I love it because it makes abstraction of the transient. That is a fight between the beginning and the end of meeting. At the end of it, we still all friends. And that's what I take away from here. Is that we are all seeking knowledge. We can be rough, we can be smooth, but we don't lose our north. And thank you everybody for contributing and for allowing me in late in the call. And how do you feel? What do you take away?
You have no idea how much I got out of okay, yeah, I asked a question, yes, but thank you so much for us sticking through and getting it all the way to the end. And the whole discussion, yeah, it was a heated discussion, I would say, rather than an argument, right? It a lot. In fact, so much so that it answered questions that would have still been sticking there that I didn't even think to ask, right? So in one heated discussion, all the months of talking about these spheres and Closepacking and all that suddenly became so clear. I was always thinking, like, why not squares? Because whenever you do the right, there's always space in between. There's always space in between when squares. But then that once Richard just cleared it with the cookie tray, right? Just the cookie tray alone. Oh wow, yeah, I can see that, even though we didn't go down the details, but I could see. But so a few things cleared on the shapes of both types of Closepacking. Understand Closepacking, what it means is the most efficient. And then the shapes are actually, the shapes that we're talking about are the centers joining to each other, right? So we're not talking about, it's actually the spheres, but because of the centers of each of the sphere connecting, this what is forming the shape. So all these shapes are now what is more stable, what is less stable, and understanding what that twist means. Yeah, and yes, Manu, we needed you to turn around in your chair, okay, just so you know. It helped. But the final one showing the helix got it clear as to why you twist one way, and it goes one way and you go, and what you mean by twisting one way, right? It is actually the helix. Whereas I think Amy was just talking about how to get that shape, yeah, from triangle and square to triangle and triangle and square and square. It is more about, and that description made the difference clear as to what the hexagonal packing looks like and what the cubic packing looks like, right? So it was a description that made it very clear. Otherwise, when I looked at it, I'm not visual, and therefore I don't notice the differences that easily, right? So that came out, and then the whole idea is what is stable, what is not stable. So guys, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I got out of this. It just pulled everything together in months of discussion, or even I think I've been around with this group for more than 3 years. I'm not sure if it's, I think September will probably be 4 years. So yeah, thank you. Much, much clearer. So Joe, how do you feel and what is your takeaway?
I feel pretty good, and there's a lot on my mind, obviously, and what I will say is that this really did serve as a healthy distraction for the past couple hours. So I'm very much appreciative of that. And so as far as the kind of the takeaways are, I mean, I thought the hexagonal and the example of the DNA and how it relates to nature was a really important demonstration, and showing like essentially how we have to be dynamic in order to exist. And then you compare that with actually the fixed structure, the stable structure, I should say, the cubic. Then I would say then you understood, well, what's the function of one, how the transition actually occurs, and what's the function of a cubic versus a hexagonal. And so Anne's question of how do we practically apply this really becomes very interesting, because then you start to think about it and how you would apply it in certain domains. And that's where I was thinking about it in the terms of a database or things along those lines, and how even data is structured, and how data travels between in a structured in a stable environment versus something that is dynamic. And so I think about, when I was thinking about it between those two, kind of you start to think about it in terms of, well, do you want to, and the real question, this could be a really interesting thought experiment at some point, is do you want a stable financial system or one that is actually a little bit more flexible? And the question to that is not very clear. And so so it's, some would say, oh, you want a stable? No, maybe you don't. So, and I can come up with scenarios that you don't, but I'm not going to go down that road, because then you can go down the idea of in economics, centralized planning, or decentralized, kind of a more decentralized financial system. But at the base of it is understanding the difference between the hexagonal and the cubic. And as we just said, neither one is good or bad per se. It's just a question of understanding both perspectives. So Richard, how do you feel? What do you take away from today?
Well, I feel pretty good. I'm taking away two things. The first takeaway is the importance to try as best we can to the principle of dialogue, and how easy it can kind of slip away when there's, as Anne says, kind of heated feelings and ideas. So, and that to me is just a big reminder in terms of what's the difference between debate and dialogue and discussion and points of view. The second takeaway is I go back to the Closepacking diagram on whatever it is. For me, it's page 105, but it's the graphic 8.5, and it's interesting. We've talked about the different perceptions or different angles helps you sometimes see something, or it can reinforce the blindness. And so when I was trying to work my way through this question of how A changes over to B, I was looking at the bottom sort of configuration where you saw the squares and the triangles. When I went up to the top and saw the 3 balls that were being laid down onto that base, all of a sudden I realized that in one case, the 3rd ball was facing away, and in the other case, it was facing in the foreground, one background and foreground, and then it's dropped down onto the next level, and you have Closepacking appears in both of them, but the configuration is a little bit different. You get the hexagonal one and you get the cubic one. So I was making life hard for myself to try and figure out how the change from the bottom graphic from A over to B, when all I had to do is go up, which I had gone up, but I didn't see the foreground background difference until all of a sudden I saw it. And then when I dropped those 3 balls down, it was easy to understand or see the difference between hexagonal and cubic. So those are 2 big takeaways for me, and I appreciate the hybrid discussion dialogue that got us there.
What Richard was just talking about was this picture right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that top one right there. Yeah.
Right. This ball shifted, which is evident
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a really good. We didn't spend enough time talking about the top part.
Cool. Are you complete?
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, it was, it's another one of those things that, oh my God, that was sitting in front of me from, minute 1 of our meeting. And I saw it many times, but it took me a long time to actually see one was in the background and one was in the foreground. And then as soon as that happened, it was like, oh, presto. I saw it drop down and I saw the end result, the outcome that Manu talks about.
And evidently, Richard, the one on the left is hexagonal packing, and the one on the right is cubic packing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So somehow this is cubes over here, and
Yeah.
somehow this is hexagonal.
And again, the big part for me is that realizing at the top, you're working with 3 balls, a triangle, and it's basically what Manu was saying is that the triangle is going to be the change agent, if you want, not the squares. So I really like that. So over to you, Steve.
Okay.
How are you feeling? What's your takeaway?
My blood pressure is slowly coming back to normal. I'm breathing deeply over here. I would say only this April, I'm going to be heading out to Vipassana, 10-day meditation. It'll be my 35th Vipassana, and it'll be my 40th year anniversary of having done Vipassana. And the cool
Wow.
thing about it in April is that I'm going to get out on Easter Sunday, which is when I did my first Vipassana 40 years ago. I got out on Easter Sunday. So, but slowly my blood pressure is coming down. I feel like the little boy who said, well, how do I get to school today? And my daddy wanted to give me the theory of relativity. And I'm going, Dad, I just want to go to school. I just want to go to school. Please do not try to explain the speed of light to me. I'm just walking to school. Okay, good. So it's been a healthy distraction because I've been able to breathe through it all. And I imagine there might have been a time when I could not have breathed through it. It might not have been as healthy. But thank you, Manu Daddy, for showing me the speed of talking about the speed of light when I just want to walk to school. Okay. I remembered that one day my son came up to me. He was probably around 5 or something like that. And he came up to me one day and he said, Dad, he said, I get it. He says, Jesus is just like Santa Claus. I thought, holy mackerel. I know that some people are in churches that have somebody compared Jesus to Santa Claus, they would wash his mouth out with soap because that would be pagan something over. And I looked at my son, I said, you know, in ways, Jesus is just like Santa Claus. And the older you get, the more you'll understand that Jesus is a whole bunch better than Santa Claus. But my 5-year-old kid thought he had answered the world's problems. He put a crown on his head and walked out of the room. And I wish somebody had said that to me tonight. No, I'm glad that we stayed in the dialogue, even though it did shift from my point of view to I'm right at times. And I like to see that we all came back together because I love Manu and I love his topological brain. But all I wanted to do was walk to school. So anyway, I'm so glad you made it, Manu. Please come again. And there's been some good chats in the chat over here.
Yeah, I mean the last one is really, really good with Manu. And that the barbell strategy is actually a really great example.
So what's the barbell strategy, Joe?
That's flexibility. Like think about it in terms of like you're pushing yourself to one extreme with risk, but this other extreme with stability.
I see.
And so-
Barbaric is like beating each other up, and barbell allows you to exercise and come up to speed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. Is that
Okay, let
okay?
me give an example, Joe.
Yeah.
When you have your, it all started with, like in the Fertile Crescent,
Yeah.
where people observed that nature was behaving somewhat good, abundant in some years, and very naughty some others, and they build granaries. Somebody must say, but why do you keep this stuff? Why you can't exchange it for something else? And that granary helped them when some event happened. That says efficiency is no more operational. We need to survive because in order to fight the next battle, you need to survive. So the barbell is when you go to gym, the barbell, you pull it like this, you have strength, but you have stability. You're doing this.
Cool.
Right? So you are building flexibility at the same time. You are looking at in case of. That's the whole black swan. We were not prepared to the black swan of 2008. We were not prepared. We all bet on one. Nature is plural. We bet on unity, on one.
Cool. And I have a new paradigm now that I go to the gym and I lift my barbell up and down. I don't throw the barbell at people because that's barbaric. Okay.
I mean, really quickly.
I want to bring up one more thing. What?
No, I mean, just to and I'll try and find it, is that, Taleb's actual strategies, he talks about it, this idea of being rooted in nature, being dynamic and adaptable versus this idea of actually being stable, and the people that take the stable perspective of looking at it like a financial market, that you're unable to predict the black swan event or be ready for it because it's something that hasn't happened. You're already fixed in your perspective. And he actually has a way of actually really demonstrating this clearly. And also, even he relates it to, he criticizes, like, he goes so far as not totally dissimilar, but he criticized Plato's forms when he goes. And so he's very critical of that, how we think we have this idea of of this ideal kind of fixed state, but it's really it does. And then I'm trying to look for the one example where he really has an interesting graphic where
we actually studied the book, Joe. I don't know if you were there.
I wasn't there.
Steve, were you there?
I don't think so. Which book?
The Syrian guy. What wasn't it? The Lebanese guy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the Black Swan.
Yeah, the Anti-Fragile, or is it
Anti-Fragile, Black Swan, and the Birth of Procrustes. I have those books somewhere.
Cool. Okay,
We're saying maybe in terms of practicality, as Richard said, we should one day, after this, study one of those books where people who have been versed into models, into these things, into mathematics, have now come and written things in application to real life. and we go through the book and we discuss with the background of the model that we studied. Yeah, of Bucky and of Anne.
Okay, good. And my final point is that, you know what, next week with daylight savings time, I'm so delighted you brought it up, Joe, that with daylight savings time, I have an event actually this coming Saturday. And because this is moving from 9 o'clock my time to 8 o'clock my time, staying stable for everybody who's not in daylight savings time, I'm going to be engaged in a thing probably and may be able to start the meeting if you guys want to go for it, if there's enough of you here. And then I can bow out and then I'll come in about an hour or 45 minutes into the meeting. So we'll just need to make sure who's coming there. I'll make sure we start the meeting. Joe and I are pretty good at coordinating that kind of stuff. But I'm happy to coordinate with anyone. And then I'll let you guys do the meeting. Then I'll join in at the end of it. Okay, you guys.
Yes,
By the way, do you know that all the studies have shown that daylight saving policies was a mistake?
Yeah, I know. I already talked about heart attacks.
So why are we still?
We aren't, but Utah is.
No, in many places in the world, we hear in South Africa we don't, but next door, Namibia they do.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. Congress actually considered wiping out daylight savings time, and that got tabled. And then Utah actually considered wiping it out, and that got tabled. So we're stuck for another year. Let's hope that the South African Enlightenment spreads over to the Western Hemisphere, the Northwest Hemisphere. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm in love.
Definitely.
Thank you all for being my friends.
Graphic, I put it in the chat.
Breathing deeply.
Richard, sorry, I have all the respect for you, please. All right.
Take care, guys.
Okay,
All
bye.
right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.